Pretty great stuff. Thank you so much for that, Deb. Let's get into your forecast details. The temperatures are warming, at least temporarily, over the next couple of days. Before we detail your weather forecast, let's go and have some fun out with Kevin Yard at Black Creek Pioneer Village. What a beautiful horse indeed. Thank you so much for that, Kevin. Yeah, March break is nearly winding down, and across Atlantic Canada, it's been at a standstill. It's a lot of work to clear that snow away, and frankly, it's getting to the point where people are just tired of it. At least that's what I'm hearing on social media, right? People are saying, okay, enough is enough. And we have yet another storm in the forecast for the east. What we have are some showers coming through. I mentioned that the temperatures would be a little bit mild the next couple of days, and then we will see the temperatures dropping back down to more so freezing once that low moves away. So just something that we need to be watching for. Once we get into this period here by Wednesday of next week, then it seems that we start to rise. Remember that spring starts tomorrow. Well, Kim, I'm going to go out on a limb and I'm going to promise you warmer weather tomorrow and the next day. Yes, it's a promise. The temperatures are definitely warming, and we'll get more into your details on the first day of spring coming up in just a moment. First, though, let's head over to the Royal Botanical Gardens with Kelly. There you go. And they change color when they're not happy. Well, imagine if we humans had that ability. There'd be a multicolored area of the country called Eastern Canada. A woman who is a week overdue. She's pregnant. She's in labor in that snowstorm yesterday. And you'll see and hear the whole story coming up a little bit later on. We've got high pressure in place here across southern Ontario. Well, it doesn't appear that we have anything quite as dramatic as that across southern Ontario. Some concern in the Grand River Basin, really around Cayuga and Brantford, possibly seeing some problems in the next few days. But having said that, let's take a look at our weather conditions. And first, we're going to have a little bit of fun with Kevin Yard on this March break as he's gone up to the Black Creek Pioneer Village. Have a look. I am confident you will solve it. That's for sure. Thanks so much, Kevin. Well, this is our must-see video. Most vibrant colored green you can imagine. So really, it's been as a result of a geomagnetic storm, actually. Let's take a look at what's happening with our weather. We have high pressure in place. The temperature's warming tomorrow and the next day. In advance of that, there will be some cloud cover, yes, and there really are two low-pressure systems. The first one just grazing by overnight in Windsor. It's possible we could see some pellets and some flurries, but nothing in Toronto. The next low moves away. They merge together. How incredible is that? Pretty amazing stuff, right? Let's get into your forecast details. And before we do that, we want to talk March break and some ideas for March break. And I know just the person who has some great ideas, and that's Kelly. He doesn't even look real. He looks like one of those garden gnomes that you buy, right? Pretty great stuff and a great idea for March break. Let's turn it over to our must-see video. It could be played out in a number of places in the east because there's been well over the, of course, season norm that we would see, but these snowstorms are putting down in some cases 40, 50 centimeters of snow in one storm. And yet there's another one on the way for the weekend, so it's not even over yet. We've got some showers on the way, milder temperatures the next couple of days. Two low pressure systems does possibly bring us in the way of some showers, and it also helps to bring our temperatures down a little bit. Thanks very much, Kim. I think there were far too many people taking their clothes off in winter weather there. That's just my opinion. Let's take a look at our weather conditions. Before we do that, though, let's talk about some ideas for March break as it winds down. But still, you may want some ideas. And Kevin Yard is out there exploring them for you. All right. Thanks very much, Kevin. And if your kids are anything like mine, you put animals into the equation and they're sold. Some must-see video for you now. Let's go. Fell through the ice. The Lake Superior is now only about 60% or so covered in ice. So the ice is rapidly diminishing because we've got fluctuating temperatures. It's pretty cold. I mean, sub-freezing, feels like -9 in Toronto. So any of these rivers and tributaries, I'm just thinking about the Grand Rivers, that's the one I'm most familiar with. The rapid melting decreases through the overnight as we get that cold temperature, but then during the day it starts to flow more heavily again, right? Back across northern Ontario, we've got two low pressure systems here. Watch in Windsor overnight tonight from our low just grazing by could bring some pellets. The second one does bring down our temperatures, and those two low pressure systems strengthen once again for Atlantic Canada, bringing yet more unsettled weather. Thanks so much for that, Jacqueline. Let's get you caught up with your weather conditions. And here at home, it's not so bad, right? A few little showers. You've seen your local forecast, right? I'll give you more details on it in a moment. But look at Eastern Canada. Bedford, Nova Scotia. Imagine the surprise when you open your garage door and you see what looked to be, it's a sizable vehicle, maybe a minivan, completely covered in snow. Snowbanks are so huge. Feels like -9 in Toronto. We've got the potential, just want to mention that through the overnight down in Windsor, just through that region, just along the north side of Lake Erie, because of the low to the south. The one to the north comes in, and that's the one that brings down our temperatures. What's been happening, or what I've noticed through the week, is that these have been separating themselves more and more as the week has gone on. They phase more over the Gulf of St. Lawrence and then strengthen over Labrador. So that's been a bit of a change that I've seen this week.
Sheryl Plouffe and Jacqueline Woodall in with you today on this Thursday. Here are some of our top stories that we're following. Well,
Of the country, and I don't know, digging for what?
He looks like he's digging to China. He just keeps going.
Probably could continue to do that and not ever get anywhere.
That's
right.
right.
How much snow there is. The spring equinox, of course, coming tomorrow. So this is where we start talking about there being nearly equal amounts of daylight versus
darkness.
Versus darkness.
That's right. At about 12 hours when we get to the vernal equinox, also known as the spring equinox. And you can see almost everywhere, right, has about 12 hours.
Yeah, we're going to talk more about the spring equinox coming up in Science Behind the Weather. That's coming up within the next little bit. But first, we want to talk to Scott Sutherland about the total solar eclipse.
Interesting.
Sounds interesting,
Yeah.
right? Well, and we don't see that obviously every day.
That's right.
What we do tend to see, maybe not every day, but fairly often at this point in the year, are rainfall warnings. And so we have another one here for West Vancouver Island, expecting to see.
And that moisture, as you say, goes right over the Rocky Mountains into the prairies, and then even into Monday, and then in the long range. I'll talk about that in Long Ranger, but it looks like they get a bit of a break for part of next week, so that's good news.
Okay. We have colder temperatures. Yeah, sure.
We'll
you know
take
what? I'll take it. I'm just counting down to spring. You realize that my
totally.
mind is with spring, right?
Me too.
Okay. On rivers and tributaries and on the Great Lakes themselves, keep in mind that on Lake Ontario right now, there's only what? I think 25 or nearly 25%
I
ice
think you're
coverage.
bang on. I thought I was going to say 24 or 25%. So definitely open. So don't go out on the water anywhere. Like, just don't even risk it this time of year. Temperatures, notice that dip in the, well, it's the jet stream really, but you can see that blue that was nudging down a little bit too far south for our liking. You're going to be at around seasonal for much of the east into the weekend, but don't get too used to that because we're back into another blast of cold air.
Thanks so much for that, Jacqueline. We've got some wet weather on the way for British Columbia. We can see the green is the rain, and then we have some snow. At higher elevations, certainly 1,300 to 1,500 meters is where it's most favorable for snow with all of this wet weather. Now, we do have a low that's developing here. It's actually more of a frontal boundary, and along that boundary, cloud cover, some flurries coming through Edmonton, for example, some snow in the northern Rockies, and there will be some precipitation lingering. In fact, if anything, Saturday, let's say. Edmonton, 2 to 5, Regina, 2 to 5, and northern parts of Manitoba, and 50 millimeters of rain in Vancouver, but the actual rainfall warnings are posted for West Vancouver Island. So we will be shadowed somewhat in Victoria, still expecting to see some showery weather and some light rain, but not as big a rainfall as in Vancouver and certainly North Vancouver. Howe Sound seeing the biggest totals of rain through the Sunshine Coast. And then when we look at the pattern, you'll see it right here. Boom, it comes in, and that will bring us some wet weather. Now, keep in mind that in Calgary, the temperatures are really not deviating from seasonal. It's warm enough for rain, but northern Alberta may see another shot of snow for Saturday. Yeah, maybe even talking 5 to 10 centimeters of snow. We've also got snow clearly here across Atlantic Canada. This is really mostly sea effect. A huge storm system that just came through. And look at that, the wind, you could hear the wind there, and a lot of problems. Now, with regard to southern Ontario, we don't have any snow in the forecast, with the exception of overnight tonight, watch in Windsor. Maybe some scattered flurries, some ice pellets with our low to the south. But this cold front comes through over the weekend. That's going to help to bring down our temperatures by Sunday. Northern Ontario is getting some snowfall from that same system, 2 to 5 centimeters of snow. Now, keep in mind that the temperatures in southern Ontario are still fairly warm the next 2 days. As you'll see for Friday here, that rain in BC, seasonal temperatures here, and then we've got another storm system on the way for the Atlantic provinces. So yeah, we don't want any more snow, but that's in the forecast for you for Saturday. Then it becomes cooler in southern Ontario gradually throughout the weekend, especially on Sunday, and mild in the west. You definitely want to be staying away from the river's edge. We have had some nice warmth in the west, temperatures above average. We've been breaking a lot of records. Case in point, for Wednesday in Whitecourt, 11 degrees. We've been nice and mild in the west. Eastern Canada, on the other hand, cold enough for snowfall. Clearly, we've just come off of a pretty stormy event in Atlantic Canada. Now, in terms of the temperatures, it is going to get colder here for where it's warm today in southern Saskatchewan and Manitoba. And northern Ontario is starting to feel some warmer temperatures. It will rebound once again we get to Monday. But what do we have in store beyond this? The Long Rangers coming up next.